The year was 2087, and humanity had spread its wings far beyond the blue skies of Earth. Space exploration was no longer just a dream, it was a reality. Humans had formed fragile alliances with alien species scattered across the galaxy, working together to survive in the vastness of space. But peace didn't come easily. Conflicts often arose between planets, races, and factions. To ease tensions, an annual event known as the Gauntlet had been established. It was a tournament where champions from different worlds fought for honor, glory, and a prize of their choosing. Jae-ho stood at the edge of the arena, his dark hair slicked back, his sharp eyes scanning the crowd. He was a soldier from South Korea, trained rigorously by Earth's military forces. His body was lean but strong, built for endurance and precision. Jae-ho wasn't chosen for this competition because he was charismatic or famous. He was picked because he was better than anyone else on Earth when it came to combat. Still, standing there under the bright lights of the arena, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. This wasn't just a fight. It was a spectacle. Millions of beings from all over the galaxy were watching, waiting to see who would emerge victorious. The arena itself was massive, a circular coliseum that seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky. The walls shimmered with holographic displays, showing the faces of the competitors. Some were human, but most were aliens, creatures with scales, fur, multiple limbs, and glowing eyes. Their appearances were strange, even unsettling, but Jae-ho didn't let himself get distracted. He focused on the task ahead. He knew what was at stake. The winner of the gauntlet could choose any prize they wanted, a position of power, endless wealth, or even a person dead. As Jae-ho waited for the tournament to begin, his gaze drifted toward the spectators section. Rows upon rows of beings filled the stands, some cheering loudly, others whispering among themselves. Among them were representatives of noble houses, offering themselves or members of their families as potential prizes. Most were flashy and loud, trying to catch the attention of the competitors. They wore elaborate outfits, their voices carrying across the arena as they boasted about their lineage and importance. But one figure stood out, not because she was loud or flamboyant, but because she was quiet. She sat near the edge of her delegation, almost blending into the background. Her silver hair caught the light, shimmering faintly like moonlight. She wore a simple gown, nothing like the glittering robes of the others around her. Her name was Hana, a princess from the planet Valeth. Jae-ho didn't know much about her world, only that it was small and relatively unknown compared to the larger, more powerful planets. What struck him most about Hana was how ignored she seemed. No one spoke to her. No one looked at her. Even her own people acted as if she didn't exist. Jae-ho found himself staring at her longer than he intended. Something about her intrigued him. It wasn't pity. He didn't feel sorry for her. Instead, he felt curious. Why would someone so clearly royal choose to remain invisible? Most royals would do anything to be noticed, especially in a place like this. But Hana, she was different. She didn't try to draw attention to herself. Instead, she sat quietly, reading a book that looked ancient and worn. The first match began, pulling Jae-ho's focus back to the arena. His opponent was a towering brute named Kale, a warrior from the volcanic planet of Drakar. Kale's skin was as black as coal, cracked and glowing with molten veins. His size alone was enough to make most fighters tremble, but Jae-ho didn't flinch. He stepped forward, his movements calm and deliberate. The crowd roared as the two competitors faced each other, the tension thick in the air. Kale charged first, his massive fists swinging wildly. Jae-ho ducked and weaved, avoiding the blows with practiced ease. He studied his opponent carefully, looking for weaknesses. Despite Kale's strength, he wasn't quick. Jae-ho used that to his advantage, striking fast and retreating before Kale could counterattack. The battle went on for several minutes, each strike echoing through the arena. Finally, Jeho saw his opening. He feinted to the left, then spun around and delivered a powerful kick to Kale's side. The giant stumbled, off balance, and Jeho followed up with a series of rapid punches to the chest. With a final blow, Kale collapsed to the ground, defeated. The crowd erupted into cheers, but Jeho barely heard them. His mind was already moving to the next match. As he stepped back to his corner of the arena, he glanced toward the spectators again. Hana was still there, watching silently. For a brief moment, their eyes met. She didn't smile or wave. She simply looked at him, her expression unreadable. Jeho couldn't explain why, but that fleeting connection stayed with him long after the match ended. Over the next few days, Jeho continued to fight, facing opponents that tested every ounce of his skill and determination. There was Leora, a deadly assassin from the shadowy planet Nixos, whose speed was unmatched. And then there was Zarek, a reptilian warrior from the Xyloth race, whose claws could slice through steel. Each battle pushed Jeho to his limits, but he refused to give up. He fought not just for victory, but for something deeper, a sense of purpose. A reason to keep going in a universe that often felt chaotic and meaningless. Between matches, Jeho found himself thinking about Hana more and more. She never approached him, never sought him out. But she was always there, sitting quietly in the same spot, observing everything with a calm detachment. One day, during a break, Jeho decided to approach her. He walked over to where she sat, ignoring the stares of those around him. "You're not like the others," she said softly as he approached, her voice carrying a hint of melancholy. "Why do you fight?" "For honor," Jeho replied without hesitation. "And maybe to find meaning in all this chaos." Hannah smiled faintly, a small but genuine gesture. "Then I suppose we have that in common." Their conversation was brief, but it left a lasting impression on Jeho. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he wasn't alone. Hannah understood him in a way no one else did. And though he didn't realize it yet, that understanding would shape the course of his journey in ways he couldn't imagine as the tournament progressed. Jeho's victories piled up, earning him a reputation as one of the fiercest competitors in the gauntlet. Yet, despite the growing attention, his thoughts kept returning to Hana. She was a mystery, a puzzle he couldn't solve. And somehow, that made her all the more fascinating. The tournament was reaching its peak, and the stakes were higher than ever. Jeho had fought his way through some of the toughest opponents in the galaxy. Each victory brought him closer to the final round, but it also pushed him to his limits. His body ached from countless bruises and cuts, and his mind was worn down by the constant pressure. Yet, despite the toll it took on him, Jeho refused to give up. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for something bigger, a chance to prove that honor and strength could still mean something in a chaotic universe. Every match was a test of skill, strategy, and endurance. One of his toughest battles came against a warrior named Kale, a hulking brute from the volcanic planet of Drakkar. Kale's size alone was intimidating, his skin glowing faintly with molten veins that hinted at the fire burning within him. The fight was brutal. Kale's attacks were slow but powerful, each punch shaking the ground beneath them. Jeho relied on his speed and agility, dodging and countering whenever he saw an opening. It was a grueling battle, but Jeho's determination won out in the end. With a well-placed kick and a series of precise strikes, he managed to bring the giant down, earning another hard-fought victory. But Kale wasn't the only challenge Jeho faced. In the next round, he went up against Leora, a deadly assassin from the shadowy planet Nixos. Leora was unlike anyone Jeho had ever fought before. She moved like a ghost, her speed unmatched, her movements almost too fast to follow. Every time Jeho thought he had her cornered, she would vanish into the shadows, only to reappear behind him moments later. The fight felt endless, as if Leora was everywhere at once, But Jae-ho didn't panic. He stayed calm, analyzing her patterns and waiting for the right moment to strike. Finally, when Leora made a rare mistake, Jae-ho seized the opportunity. With a swift kick to her legs, he knocked her off balance and delivered a decisive blow that ended the match. Each victory brought Jae-ho one step closer to the finals. But they also left him more battered and exhausted. Still, he pressed on, driven by a quiet resolve that burned deep inside him. Between matches, he spent most of his time resting and preparing for the next fight. But no matter how tired he was, his thoughts kept returning to Hana. She was always there, sitting quietly in the same spot, watching everything unfold with a calm detachment. Her presence was subtle, almost unnoticeable, but it lingered in the back of Jae-ho's mind like a gentle reminder of something important. One day, during a break between matches, Jae-ho decided to approach her again. He walked over to where she sat, ignoring the curious stares of those around him. Hana looked up as he approached, her silver hair shimmering softly under the arena lights. There was no surprise in her expression, just a quiet acknowledgement of his presence. "You keep winning," she said simply, her voice soft but steady. "I have to," Jae-ho replied. "There's no other choice." Hana tilted her head slightly, studying him with a thoughtful gaze. "Why do you push yourself so hard? You've already proven your strength. What else are you searching for?" Jae-ho hesitated, unsure how to answer. He had never really thought about it before. Fighting was what he did, it was who he was. But Hana's question made him pause. Why was he pushing himself so hard? After a moment, he spoke. "Maybe I'm searching for meaning," he admitted. "In all this chaos, I want to find something real, something worth fighting for." Hana nodded slowly, as if she understood exactly what he meant. "And what will you choose as your prize when you win?" she asked. Jae-ho didn't answer right away. The truth was, he hadn't given much thought to the prize. Most competitors chose wealth or power, things that seemed important in the grand scheme of the galaxy. But Jae-ho wasn't like most competitors. He didn't care about riches or status. As he stood there, looking at Hana, he realized that his answer might be simpler and more complicated than he had imagined. Their conversation ended shortly after that, but it stayed with Jae-ho long after he returned to his training. Hana's words echoed in his mind, forcing him to confront questions he had avoided for years. What did he truly want? What was he willing to fight for? As the final round approached, Jae-ho faced his last opponent, Zarek, a reptilian warrior from the Xylith race. Zarek was known for his razor-sharp claws and lightning-fast reflexes. He was a predator, built for hunting and killing. The match was intense, every moment filled with danger. Zarek's claws sliced through the air, narrowly missing Jae-ho's face more than once. Jae-ho countered with calculated precision, using his knowledge of combat to outmaneuver the alien warrior. It was a battle of wits as much as strength, and both fighters pushed themselves to their absolute limits. Finally, after what felt like hours, Jae-ho found his opening. Zarek lunged forward, his claws aimed straight for Jae-ho's chest. But Jae-ho sidestepped at the last second, grabbing Zarek's arm and twisting it behind his back. With one final powerful move, he slammed Zarek to the ground, ending the fight. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the arena. Jae-ho stood victorious, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He had done it. He had won the gauntlet. As the announcer declared his name, Jae-ho scanned the audience, his eyes landing on Hana. She was watching him, her expression unreadable. For a moment, their gazes locked, and Jae-ho felt a surge of clarity. He knew what he wanted. When the time came for him to choose his prize, Jae-ho stepped forward without hesitation. The crowd fell silent, anticipation hanging thick in the air. All eyes were on him as he raised his hand and pointed directly at Hana. "I choose her," he said, his voice clear and steady. The reaction was immediate. Gasps rippled through the audience, followed by murmurs of disbelief. Members of Hana's delegation protested loudly, claiming she was unworthy of being chosen. Others whispered among themselves, calling Jae-ho foolish for picking someone so overlooked. But Jae-ho ignored them all. His decision was final. Later, when they were alone, Hana confronted him. "Why did you choose me?" she asked, her tone a mix of suspicion and gratitude. "Because you remind me of myself," Jae-ho admitted. "You don't seek validation from others, and yet you carry yourself with dignity. That's rare." For the first time, Hana allowed herself to smile fully. "Then I suppose we have much to learn from each other." Though neither of them knew it yet, this choice would change the course of their lives forever. Jae-ho had found something real, someone worth fighting for. And Hana, for the first time in her life, felt truly seen. The decision was made, and there was no turning back. Jae-ho had chosen Hana as his prize, a choice that shocked nearly everyone in the galaxy. The reactions ranged from disbelief to outright anger. Members of Hana's delegation were furious, their voices rising in heated arguments as they tried to convince Jae-ho to reconsider. "She is not worthy," one of them shouted, pointing at Hana with disdain. "You could have chosen anyone, wealth, power, even a noble from our house. Why her?" But Jae-ho stood firm, his expression calm and resolute. He didn't raise his voice or try to justify his decision. Instead, he simply repeated what he had already said. "I choose her." His tone left no room for argument. And eventually, the protests died down. Though the tension remained thick in the air, Hana herself was quiet during all of this. She stood off to the side, her silver hair catching the light as she watched the chaos unfold around her. Her face was unreadable, but her hands were clasped tightly together, betraying the storm of emotions inside her. When the commotion finally settled, she turned to Jae-ho, her eyes searching his face. "Why did you do it?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. "No one has ever chosen me before." Jae-ho met her gaze without hesitation. "Because I saw something in you," he replied. "Something real. You don't need to shout or fight for attention to be worth noticing. That's rare, and is valuable." For a moment, Hana didn't respond. She looked away, her lips pressed into a thin line as if she were trying to process his words. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But know this, I won't be anyone's trophy. If you want me by your side, you'll have to earn my trust." Jae-ho smiled faintly. "Fair enough." Over the following days, Jae-ho and Hana began their journey together. They left the arena behind, traveling across the galaxy to explore new worlds and meet different species. At first, their relationship was awkward and strained. They came from vastly different backgrounds, and their personalities clashed more often than not. Jae-ho was a soldier through and through, disciplined, focused, and used to being alone. Hana, on the other hand, was a scholar, someone who preferred books and quiet reflection over action and adventure. Their differences became apparent almost immediately. On their first stop, a bustling spaceport filled with traders and travelers, Jae-ho wanted to explore the markets and gather supplies. Hana, however, insisted on visiting the local library, which housed ancient texts about the planet's history. They argued briefly, each trying to convince the other to see things their way. In the end, they compromised, splitting their time between the two places. Despite their disagreements, they began to learn from each other. Hana taught Jae-ho about the importance of understanding cultures and traditions, showing him how knowledge could be just as powerful as strength. Jae-ho, in turn, showed Hana the value of adaptability and quick thinking, skills he had honed during years of combat. Slowly but surely, they started to bridge the gap between them. One evening, As they sat around a campfire on a remote moon, Hana opened up about her past. She told Jeho how her people had dismissed her because she refused to play the political games that dominated Veilith society. "They see me as weak because I don't seek power," she explained, her voice tinged with sadness. "But I never wanted to rule. I wanted to preserve what makes us unique, our traditions, our stories. That's why I spend so much time reading and studying." Jeho listened intently, nodding as she spoke. "That's not weakness," he said when she finished. "It takes courage to stand apart from everyone else, especially when they don't understand you." Hana smiled faintly, touched by his words. "And what about you?" she asked. "Why do you fight so hard? What drives you?" Jeho hesitated, staring into the flames. For a long time, he didn't answer. Then, finally, he spoke. "I fight because it's what I'm good at," he admitted. "But lately, I've been wondering if there's more to life than just surviving. Maybe I'm looking for a reason to keep going, something bigger than myself." Hana reached out and placed a hand on his arm. "Maybe you've already found it," she said softly. Their bond deepened further when they encountered danger on a desolate asteroid. While exploring a ruined outpost, they were ambushed by a group of mercenaries. These men had been hired by one of Jeho's former rivals, seeking revenge for his defeat in the gauntlet. Outnumbered and outgunned, Jeho and Hana found themselves in a desperate situation. At first, Jeho took charge, using his combat skills to hold off the attackers, while Hana hid behind cover. But as the battle dragged on, it became clear that brute force alone wouldn't be enough. That's when Hana stepped in. Using her quick thinking and resourcefulness, she rigged a makeshift trap using pieces of scrap metal and wiring she found nearby. When the mercenaries triggered it, several of them were incapacitated, giving Jeho the opening he needed to finish the fight. Afterward, as they caught their breath, Jeho looked at Hana with newfound respect. "You saved us," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "We saved each other," Hana corrected, smiling faintly. "You can't fight every battle alone, Jeho. Sometimes you need someone to watch your back." From that moment on, their partnership grew stronger. They relied on each other not just in combat, but in everything they did. Jeho began to see Hana not as a fragile princess, but as a capable and intelligent ally. And Hana, for her part, started to trust Jeho completely, knowing that he would protect her no matter what. As they traveled from world to world, Jeho couldn't help but notice how people reacted to Hana. At first, many treated her with indifference or even disdain, dismissing her as insignificant. But as they spent more time with her, they began to see her for who she truly was, a leader in her own right, someone who cared deeply about preserving culture and knowledge. Slowly, Hana's confidence grew. She stopped hiding in the background and started speaking up, sharing her ideas and insights with others. Through it all, Jeho remained by her side, supporting her every step of the way. He realized now why he had chosen her, not because she was overlooked, but because she had potential. She was a diamond in the rough, waiting for the right moment to shine. And Jeho was determined to help her find her place in the galaxy. By the time they reached the edge of known space, Jeho knew that his journey wasn't just about winning a tournament anymore. It was about finding purpose, and he had found it in Hana. Together, they were building something meaningful, something that transcended titles or prizes. They weren't just companions. They were partners, united by a shared vision of a better future. As they gazed at the stars, standing on the deck of their ship, Hana turned to Jeho with a small smile. "What happens next?" she asked. Jeho shrugged, his eyes reflecting the light of distant suns. "We keep moving forward," he said, "together." And with that, they set their course for the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey back to Veilith was long and filled with quiet moments. Jeho and Hana had grown closer during their travels, But now they faced a new challenge. Returning to Hannah's home planet, where tensions were high and her people were divided. Valith wasn't like the bustling worlds they had visited before. It was smaller, quieter, and deeply rooted in tradition. Its landscapes were breathtaking rolling hills covered in bioluminescent plants that glowed softly at night. Rivers that shimmered with colors no human eye could fully comprehend, and skies painted with twin moons. But beneath its beauty lay a world struggling to hold itself together. Hannah had told Jeho about the problems on Valith during their journey. The planet's ruling council was fractured, with factions fighting for control. Some wanted to embrace modern technology and trade with other planets, while others insisted on preserving their ancient ways at all costs. These disagreements had escalated into violence, leaving villages destroyed and families torn apart. Hannah's own family was part of the conflict, though she had distanced herself from it years ago. Now, however, there was no avoiding it. By stepping forward as a chosen prize in the gauntlet, Hannah had drawn attention to herself and to Jeho as well. When their ship landed on Valith, they were greeted by a mix of curiosity and hostility. A small group of officials met them at the landing pad, their expressions unreadable. One of them, an older man with sharp features and cold eyes, stepped forward. "Princess Hannah," he said, his tone formal but laced with disdain. "You have returned with a stranger." Jeho stood beside Hannah, his posture relaxed but alert. He didn't say anything, letting Hannah take the lead. She met the man's gaze without flinching. "This is Jeho," she said calmly. "He is my companion and ally. We are here to help restore peace to Valith." The official scoffed. "Peace? You abandoned your duties years ago. Why should we trust you now?" Hannah's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. "Because I care about this planet and its people. I may not agree with everything our ancestors did, but I believe we can honor their legacy while building a better future. That's why I'm here, to listen, to learn, and to act." The man stared at her for a moment, then turned and walked away without another word. The rest of the group followed, leaving Jeho and Hannah alone on the landing pad. For a brief moment, silence hung between them. Then Jeho spoke. "That went well," he said, dryly. Hannah let out a soft laugh. "It could have been worse. At least they didn't throw us off the planet." "They still might," Jeho replied, though he smiled faintly. "But if they do, we'll deal with it." Over the next few days, Hannah and Jeho traveled across Valith, meeting with representatives from both sides of the conflict. They visited villages ravaged by fighting, speaking with farmers who had lost their crops and families who had lost loved ones. They listened to elders who feared losing their traditions and young people eager for change. Each story added another layer to the complex web of issues facing the planet. At first, many were skeptical of Jeho's presence. He was an outsider, a human soldier from Earth, and some viewed him with suspicion. But as time passed, his actions began to win them over. When a village was attacked by raiders, Jeho helped organize a defense, using his tactical skills to protect the villagers. When supplies ran low in a remote settlement, he worked tirelessly alongside Hannah to gather food and medicine. Slowly, people started to see him not as a threat, but as someone willing to stand with them in their struggles. Hannah, too, earned their respect. Though she had once been dismissed as weak or uninterested in leadership, she proved herself through her determination and wisdom. She mediated heated arguments, finding common ground where none seemed to exist. She reminded everyone of the values that united them, their shared history, their love for their land, and their hope for a brighter tomorrow. Together, Hannah and Jeho became a team, balancing each other's strengths and weaknesses. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of negotiations, they sat together under the twin moons, watching the glowing plants sway gently in the breeze. Hannah sighed, rubbing her temples. "I never thought it would be this hard," she admitted. Everyone has such strong opinions, and no one wants to compromise. It's always harder when it matters, Jeho said. If it were easy, anyone could do it. Hana glanced at him, a small smile tugging at her lips. You're surprisingly wise for a soldier, and you're surprisingly brave for a scholar, Jeho shot back, grinning. They laughed softly, the sound carrying into the night. For a moment, the weight of their responsibilities lifted, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and trust. They had come so far since the day they met in the arena, and though the road ahead was uncertain, they knew they could face it together. As weeks turned into months, Hana and Jeho made progress. They brokered agreements between rival factions, convincing them to put aside their differences for the sake of Vaylith's survival. They implemented reforms that balanced tradition with innovation, ensuring that no one felt left behind. Slowly but surely, the planet began to heal. Villages rebuilt their homes, markets reopened, and children played in fields once again. But perhaps the most significant change came within Hana herself. She had always doubted her ability to lead, fearing that she wasn't strong enough or smart enough to make a difference. Yet, as she worked alongside Jeho, she discovered a strength she hadn't known she possessed. She learned to speak up, to fight for what she believed in, and to inspire others to do the same. By the time peace talks concluded, she was no longer the overlooked princess who hid in the shadows. She was a leader, respected and admired by her people. Jeho noticed the transformation in her and felt a deep sense of pride. He had come to Vaylith as a fighter, seeking purpose in a chaotic universe. What he found instead was something far greater, a reason to keep going, a cause worth fighting for. And that cause was Ha. On the final day of their mission, Hana stood before a gathering of Vaylith's leaders and citizens, addressing them for the first time as their ruler. Her voice was clear and confident as she spoke of unity, resilience, and hope. "We are one people," she said, her silver hair catching the light of the twin moons. "No matter our differences, we share this land, these skies, and these stars. Let us move forward together, honoring the past while embracing the future." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing across the valley. Jeho watched from the sidelines, his heart swelling with emotion. He had never imagined that a simple choice in an arena would lead him here, to a world he had never heard of. Standing beside someone who had changed his life forever. Later that night, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city, Hana turned to Jeho with a grateful smile. "Thank you," she said softly, "for believing in me when no one else did." Jeho shook his head. "Don't thank me. You did all the hard work. I just followed your lead." Hana laughed, shaking her head. "You're impossible." "Maybe," Jeho replied, smiling. "But I'm your impossible." They shared a quiet moment, gazing at the stars above. Neither of them knew what the future held, but they were ready to face it together. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would meet them side by side, bound by a bond that transcended worlds. The work on Vaylith wasn't finished, but it was moving in the right direction. Hana had taken her place as a leader, not just for her people, but also for herself. She no longer shied away from responsibility or doubted her worth. With Jeho by her side, she had found the courage to step into the role she was born to play. Together, they had brought peace to a fractured world, proving that unity could overcome even the deepest divides. But life didn't stop after peace talks ended. There were still challenges ahead, rebuilding damaged cities, healing old wounds, and ensuring that the fragile alliances they had formed would last. Hana and Jeho knew their journey wasn't over. It was simply entering a new phase. Every day brought new opportunities to grow, to learn, and to make a difference, not just on Vaylith, but beyond its borders. One morning, as the twin moons rose above the horizon, casting a soft glow over the capital city, Hannah stood on the balcony of her palace. The view was breathtaking. The glowing fields stretched out endlessly, dotted with clusters of bioluminescent plants that shimmered like stars on the ground. It was a reminder of how beautiful Valith could be when it was at peace. Behind her, Jeho approached quietly, his boots making almost no sound against the stone floor. "You're up early," he said, leaning against the railing beside her. "I couldn't sleep," Hannah replied, glancing at him with a small smile. "Too much on my mind. Anything I can help with?" Jeho asked. Hannah hesitated, then shook her head. "Not really. Just thinking about what comes next. We've done so much here, but there's still so much more to do." Jeho nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. He had felt the same way during his time as a soldier. Every victory brought relief, but it also came with the knowledge that another battle might be waiting around the corner. "It's never-ending, isn't it?" he said. "There's always something else to fix, someone else who needs help." "Yes," Hannah agreed. "But maybe that's a good thing. If we ever stopped having problems to solve, wouldn't that mean we'd run out of ways to improve?" Jeho chuckled softly. "You're starting to sound like me." "And you're starting to sound like me," Hannah shot back, raising an eyebrow playfully. "When did you become so philosophical?" "Must be spending too much time with you," Jeho teased. They shared a laugh, the tension easing between them. For a moment, everything felt lighter, simpler. The weight of their responsibilities faded, replaced by the comfort of knowing they weren't alone. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As weeks passed, Hannah and Jeho continued to work tirelessly for Valith. They traveled across the planet, visiting communities that had been neglected for years. In one village, they helped rebuild a school that had been destroyed during the conflict. In another, they organized festivals to celebrate local traditions, bringing people together in ways they hadn't thought possible. Slowly, trust began to grow, not just in Hannah and Jeho, but in each other. Their efforts didn't go unnoticed. Word of their success spread to neighboring planets, inspiring others to seek similar solutions for their own conflicts. Representatives from distant worlds began arriving on Valith, eager to learn from Hannah and Jeho's example. Some came seeking advice, while others offered assistance in rebuilding. Hannah welcomed them all, grateful for any support she could get, but not everyone was pleased with the changes happening on Valith. A small group of extremists, unwilling to accept peace, plotted to disrupt the progress Hannah and Jeho had made. Late one night, as the two of them reviewed plans for a new irrigation system, an alarm blared through the palace. Guards rushed in, their weapons drawn, shouting warnings of an attack. Without hesitation, Jeho sprang into action. He grabbed Hannah's hand and pulled her towards safety, his instincts taking over. "Stay close," he ordered, his voice firm but calm. Hannah didn't argue. She trusted Jeho completely, knowing he would protect her no matter what. Together, they navigated the darkened halls of the palace, avoiding the chaos erupting around them. Explosions rocked the building, sending debris raining down, but Jeho kept them moving, using every ounce of his training to keep them alive. Finally, they reached a secure room deep within the palace. Once inside, Hannah activated a hidden console, locking the door behind them. She turned to Jeho, her expression serious. "We need to end this," she said. "If we don't stop them now, they'll keep coming back." Jeho nodded. "Agreed. What's the plan?" Working quickly, Hannah accessed the palace's security systems, pinpointing the location of the attackers. Using her knowledge of the building's layout, she devised a strategy to neutralize the threat. Jeho listened intently, nodding as she explained her plan. When she finished, he smiled faintly. "Not bad," he said. "For a scholar." Hannah rolled her eyes. "Let's just focus on staying alive, shall we?" With Hannah guiding him remotely through the palace's corridors, Jeho moved swiftly, taking down the attackers one by one. His movements were precise, efficient, leaving no room for error. By the time reinforcements arrived, the situation was under control. The extremists were captured, their plot foiled before it could cause real harm. Later, as dawn broke over Valeth, Hana and Jeho stood together on the palace steps, watching as the sun illuminated the city below. "That was too close," Hana said, her voice quiet but steady. "It always is," Jeho replied. "But we handled it, together." Hana nodded, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "Do you think we'll ever have a quiet life? One without battles or crises?" Jeho shrugged. "Maybe someday. But until then, we've got each other. That's enough for me." Hana smiled, reaching out to take his hand. "Me too." In the months that followed, life on Valeth settled into a rhythm of growth and renewal. Hana continued to lead her people with wisdom and compassion, earning their love and respect. Jeho remained by her side, offering guidance and protection whenever needed. Though they came from different worlds, they had built a bond that transcended boundaries, a partnership rooted in trust, understanding, and shared purpose. Together, they looked toward the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Whether it was rebuilding Valeth, helping neighboring planets find peace, or simply enjoying quiet moments under the twin moons, they faced it all side by side. Their story was far from over, but they knew one thing for certain. As long as they had each other, they could overcome anything. And so, under the endless skies of Valeth, Hana and Jeho stood together, gazing at the stars. They weren't just a princess and a soldier anymore. They were symbols of hope, proof that even in a chaotic universe, connection and purpose could be found. Whatever adventures awaited them, they would meet them together, bound by a love that defied odds and united worlds.